Okay, I have a question here, and it seems that nobody can answer this question. According to the Commonwealth, and I wonder if the jury is asking themselves these same questions. According to the Commonwealth, yesterday they had their star witness come in, who is this doctor. You know, he did a series of different, tests. And while somewhat compelling, I still have questions. So one of the tests, as you could see on the screen, was that he actually went out and purchased a Lexus that was similar but not exact to Karen's. And that's a whole nother story, because there's a ton of different variables that would go into this whole situation. First off, we don't know where John was standing. Was he on the curb? Was he in the street? We don't know that. Was there snow on the ground? Was he standing on top of snow? I mean, this is a test that, at first glance might seem pretty convincing, right? He put paint on the taillight, and then, he bumped into the car to show that, John O'Keefe's injuries could have came from the taillight. But there's so many different variables that come into play. Was John standing on the curb? Was he in the street? What's the curve of the street? If you ever look at a road, kind of goes up in the middle and then kind of curves down on the end so the rainwater could flow off the sides. He's doing this test in a flat parking lot, so it's a little, it's not, too exact. So, also, he never measured John's arms. He doesn't know, just because they're the same height as somebody, it doesn't mean that your arms are going to be the same length or your body's going to be built the same way. But here's my biggest question of all in all of this, okay? I'm trying to understand why John O'Keefe would get out of the car at 34 Fairview and then just stand in the road with his arm out, holding a glass as if he was at a bar talking to somebody. It just doesn't make any sense. I can't make any type of sense over this situation. Why would he just be standing there waiting for Karen to back up to him? As I showed in my last video, the Commonwealth's theory, is that they pulled up by the flagpole. John then exits the vehicle in the heat of a fight, right? They don't have any evidence to show that there was a fight going on, but that is what was stated by, Hank Brennan. So John then exits the car, and for some reason, he just stands in the same exact spot that he exited the vehicle. Karen then pulls 35 feet ahead, puts the car in neutral. Now we're talking, we don't know how much time she was sitting there. And then she decides to just put 75% pressure on the gas and back all the way up into John O'Keefe. And what was John doing the whole time? That's my question. Why would this man, who's a reasonably intelligent man, who obviously was drinking that night, and yes, his reaction speed might be off, but we see him exiting the bar. He still has his wits about him. And so you're telling me, he lost his wits? I mean, yes, is his reaction speed going to be delayed? Sure. But you're telling me that this police officer, exited the car and then just proceeded to stand there facing not the Albert's house, but the house across the street with his arm extended into the road, waiting for Karen to back up, right? I mean, she pulled forward 35 feet and then supposedly backed up, right? Back to where she was, her original starting place. Now, nobody knows if John was standing there still. Why would he just be standing there, is my question, right? Why not either walk into the house? This guy is standing outside with a very lightweight hoodie with a t-shirt underneath, in the snow. It's freezing cold out. Those of us who live in the Northeast know how cold it could be and windy when a storm is approaching, So you're telling me he just got out of the car and just stood there in the street facing the across the street neighbor's house with his arm extended as if he was standing in the bar having a conversation with somebody, just waiting for her to back into him, right? At no point does he turn around and walk towards the house or down the curb or anything like that. So you're telling me that he watches her go all the way down 35 feet away from him and then back up into him. And at no time does the man say, oh my God, she's backing up towards me. Let me step out of the way. No, he just stands in the street with his arm extended, holding his drink, and waits for her to just smash into him. I mean, does that make sense to anybody else? I mean, if this is the story that the Commonwealth is trying to tell us, then John had more than ample time to jump out of the way to safety. Why on earth would he just stand there facing the across the street neighbor's house, waiting for her to hit him? It doesn't make sense. And no one can seem to explain this. Why a grown man who, is a cop would just be standing there. He wouldn't turn around. He wouldn't jump out of the way. He just stood there as she pulled up 35 feet and then just backed into him. It just doesn't make sense. In order for their theory to work the way that this guy is showing it, he would have to be facing across the street looking at the neighbor's house. So it just, yes, seems compelling at first. But then when you really sit and think about it, which I hope the jury's doing, it just doesn't really quite make sense.